Hola, bienvenidos a la clase de español. Today I want to talk to you about two things, the subject pronouns in Spanish and the verb ser. I'd like to start with the subject pronouns. Now, in order to understand subject pronouns, we need to know what a pronoun is. And a pronoun is basically a word that takes the place of a noun. Now, the word subject refers to the specific role that a noun plays in a sentence. And a subject is the person or thing that does the action or that is being described in a sentence. So a subject pronoun is the word that takes the place of the noun that is doing the action or is being described in a sentence. Now I'll go through the English subject pronouns first, and that might give you a better idea of what we're talking about as well. When we talk about subject pronouns, we divide them based on whether they refer to one singular subject or multiple subjects, which would be plural. Then we also divide them based on whether they include the person who is speaking, first person, include the person who is being spoken to, second person, or just as another person or people altogether, third person. So in English, our first person singular subject pronoun is I. If I'm going to tell you something that I do, I'm probably not going to say, Senor First plays the guitar. I'll probably say, I play the guitar. Our second person singular subject pronoun in English is you. Our third person singular subject pronouns are based on the gender of the person we're talking about, and they would be he or she. Moving over to the plural side, our first person plural subject pronoun is we. Our second person plural subject pronoun in English is you, but I'm going to say you all just so we can differentiate between the single you and the plural you. Our third person plural subject pronoun in English is they. Now we have words for all of those things in Spanish, but we have a couple additional words as well, and you've seen some of these words already. In Spanish, the first person singular subject pronoun, or the word for I, is yo. The second person singular subject pronoun in Spanish, the word for you, is tú. Now that's an informal you. We also have a formal you in Spanish, but we're going to lump that together with the third person pronouns, and we'll see why later. So that word, the word for a formal you, is usted. The third person singular masculine subject pronoun in Spanish, the word for he, is él. And the third person singular feminine subject pronoun in Spanish, the word for she, is ella. On the plural side, the word for we, the first person plural subject pronoun, is nosotros or nosotras. The second person plural subject pronoun, the word for you all, is vosotros or vosotras. Now that's going to be the informal you all. There's also a formal you all, and that will be the word ustedes, and that's going to go down with the third person pronouns, just like the usted did on the singular side. The third person plural subject pronouns in Spanish, the words for they, are ellos and ellas. Now you'll notice that all of the plural subject pronouns in Spanish, with the exception of ustedes, had two forms, one that ends in an os and one that ends in an as. That's because anytime you talk about a group of people in Spanish, you need to identify, are they all female, and use the feminine ending, which is the as, or is there at least one male person in the group, in which case you would use the masculine ending, the os. Now that you can see the subject pronouns in Spanish, we can go ahead and see how they relate to a verb, and for our first verb, we're going to use the verb ser. Now the verb ser in Spanish is one of the verbs that can be translated as to be. It's the verb to be that's going to be used for defining characteristics about people or things. And we're going to have to make changes to this verb when we use it in a sentence. We do that in English as well. I don't say I be tall, I say I am tall. I don't say be you a student, I say are you a student. Those changes that we make are called conjugating the verb. We take the verb, we put it in different forms, and those forms have to agree or match up with the subject pronoun that we're using. So in English, we conjugate the verb to be by saying I am, you are, he or she is, we are, you all are, and they are. You'll notice we have three different forms that we use in English because all of the plural forms are the same, and they're the same as the second person singular form. In Spanish, however, we're going to have 6 forms of the verb ser, and that's going to be true for any verb we encounter. The first person singular form of the verb ser which would mean I am, is going to be soy. The second person singular form of the verb ser, which would mean you are, informal, is going to be eres. The third person singular form of the verb ser, which is going to mean you are, formal, he is or she is going to be es. The first person plural form of the verb ser, which would mean we are, is going to be somos. The second person plural form of the verb ser, which would mean you all are, informal, is going to be sois. The third person plural form of the verb ser, which would mean you all are, formal, and they are, is going to be son. So the forms of the verb ser altogether in Spanish are going to be soy, eres, es, somos, sois, son. So if I wanted to use the verb ser and tell you that I am a Spanish teacher, I would say, yo soy maestro de español. If I wanted to tell you that you're a student, I would say, tú eres estudiante. If I was to tell you that someone was from Puerto Rico, I might say, ella es de Puerto Rico. If you were hanging out with a group of people and you just wanted to clarify that you were all friends, you might say, nosotros somos amigos. If I wanted to comment on the intelligence of all of you as my students, I might say, vosotros sois inteligentes. And if I was going to tell you that a group of people we were talking about were from Spain, I would say, ellos son de España. Notice how I put together the subject pronouns in those sentences with the appropriate form of the verb ser. If I'm using the verb ser and I say the word yo, I have to use the form soy. That's the only one that will work. So, to tell who does an action, or who is being described in a sentence, use your subject pronouns in Spanish. Yo, tú, usted, él, ella, nosotros or nosotras, vosotros or vosotras, ustedes, ellos, and ellas. And then if you are describing someone or saying where someone is from, use the appropriate form of the verb ser to be. Soy, eres, es, somos, sois, and son. Gracias por ver este video. Adiós.